You ever wake up more tired than when you went to bed? Like, no matter how much you rest, you still feel drained mentally, physically, and emotionally? You feel disconnected, like you're just going through the motions, and the things you used to enjoy don't even hit the same anymore. If any of that sounds familiar, you might be burned out. And if you are, trust me, you're not alone. Hey guys, welcome to another Broken Podcast. I'm Nick Taylor. And if this is your first time here, I want you to know that this isn't just some polished, picture-perfect self-help podcast. I'm not here to tell you to just think positive or meditate more. I'm here because I've been through it. Burnout isn't just about feeling tired. It's what happens when you've been running on empty for so long that your body, your mind, and your whole being just starts to shut down. I've felt it. Hell, I've ignored it. I've pushed through it just because I had to. And I know a lot of you have too. So today, we're going to break that down. What burnout actually is, why it sneaks up on you, and more importantly, what can you do about it? Because burnout isn't just a phase, it's a warning sign. And if you don't learn how to listen to it, you're going to just keep running yourself into the ground. So what is burnout exactly? Because a lot of people think that burnout just means being exhausted, like you just need a good night's sleep or a weekend off and you'll be fine. But if you've ever actually been burned out, you know that's not how it works. Burnout isn't just about being tired, it's about being empty. It's like your brain and your body start shutting down on you, piece by piece. You don't feel like yourself, the things that used to motivate you, they're gone. The stuff that used to make you happy, it all feels like a chore. Even basic things like answering a text, making a meal, or just existing in your own skin, it feels like too much. The scariest part, sometimes you don't even notice it's happening. You just wake up one day and realize that you don't recognize yourself anymore. I know because I've been there. And if I'm being real, I probably let myself stay there a lot longer than I should have. I remember this one time when I was still pushing through every day like nothing was wrong, and I had this moment where I just shut down. I was standing in my kitchen, looking at the fridge, knowing I needed to eat, knowing that I should make something, but I just stood there, staring at it. No thoughts, no energy, no motivation. I wasn't sad, I wasn't angry, I just felt nothing. And that's the thing about burnout. It doesn't always hit you like a breakdown. Sometimes it's just this slow, creeping numbness. Like parts of you are fading out, and you don't even realize it until you're running on autopilot. What are some of the ways that you actually know you're burned out? Well, here's some of the signs. Exhaustion that doesn't go away. No matter how much you sleep, you still feel drained. Irritability over small things. You snap at people, get frustrated easily, or just don't have the patience that you used to. Lack of motivation. The stuff you used to care about just doesn't matter anymore. Forgetfulness and brain fog. You start making mistakes, losing track of things, struggling to focus. Physical symptoms. Headaches, body aches, stomach issues. It all adds up. Emotional detachment. You feel disconnected from people, from your work, or even from yourself. If any of this sounds familiar, you're not crazy. You're not lazy. You're not broken. You're just burned out. And that doesn't mean that you've failed. It just means you've been carrying too much for too long. And that brings us to our next big question. Why? Why does burnout happen? And why do so many of us ignore the warning signs until it's too late? Because it's easy to just say, oh, I'm overworked, or I've been stressed, but burnout usually runs way deeper than that. For a lot of us, burnout isn't just about work. It's about constantly being in survival mode, physically, emotionally, or mentally. Maybe you've been grinding for so long that you don't know how to stop. Maybe you were raised to believe that rest is laziness. Maybe life has hit you so hard so many times that you don't even trust peace when it shows up. And that's the thing, burnout isn't just about doing too much, it's about never feeling like you can stop. So here's just some of the common burnout triggers. For some people, burnout comes from external pressure. Overworking, too many responsibilities, never getting a break, financial stress, or taking care of others while neglecting yourself. For others, it's emotional burnout, carrying the weight of past trauma, always being the strong one for everyone else, suppressing emotions instead of processing them, feeling like you're failing even when you're giving everything you have. And then there's mental burnout, Being stuck in survival mode for so long that your brain doesn't know how to rest. Constant overstimulation from social media, news, and information overload. Feeling like no matter how hard you try, it's never enough. Now, I know for me, burnout wasn't just about work. It was about the weight of everything. All the expectations, all the responsibilities, all the unprocessed things I had buried so deep, I didn't even realize it was still affecting me. So my personal story with burnout is a rough one. I had the old pull yourself up by your bootstraps mentality drilled into me throughout my life by my grandfather verbally affirming it and watching my dad live by it to a point of near-death experiences multiple times throughout my formative years. Of course, joining the military at 17 years old only helped solidify that ideology. And I was bound and determined that I would show the world I can do it by myself, under the impression that asking for help was the ultimate sign of weakness. At the detriment of my own self, I grinded my way through, proving I could do it all on my own. Even to the tune of working a full-time job during the day and another at night in my young adult years to ensure my independence as a man would go unchallenged, and I could provide for my wife and 3 kids at the time without any help. I've been taught that was what a man is, and that his value is strictly in what he can produce and provide for his family. After my deployment to Afghanistan and starting my career in networking, I managed to keep things afloat with one job. Although there were times I would show up for work at 8 a.m. and work until 1 a.m. the next morning, I was on my way to achieving the good old American dream. Not understanding at the time it was at the cost of my own self. The longer I pushed, the more empty I became. When my wife came to me about getting a job, I took it as an insult. It wasn't until she presented it as a way for her to go out and interact with other people that I saw it as a positive thing. But even with another source of income, I continued to push for years, proving only to myself that I was worthy of the title man. I continued to hollow myself out. We relocated. I began traveling 90% of the time to work on the cellular network. And my identity had collapsed into being a full-on workhorse. I was able to get myself back into local networking, but at the tune of 12 years of doing this, nothing was left but a hollow shell. It wasn't until my marriage was at the brink of collapse for the 3rd time, that I cognitively paid attention to at least, that I began to see how empty I really was, and how little I had left to offer my own family. That should never be the point when anyone has the realization. When it's literally on the cusp of being far too late, and when you look in the mirror and you don't even recognize yourself anymore. So why do we ignore the signs? Even those that can see it coming on ignore it. Why? Because we tell ourselves we just need to push through. Because we feel guilty for resting. Because society glorifies being busy and productive. And because sometimes we don't even realize how deep we are into survival mode. And that's dangerous because the longer that we ignore it, the worse it gets. Your body will force you to slow down one way or another through exhaustion, illness, mental breakdowns, or just straight up shutting down. So what do we do? How do we break the cycle? That's what we're going to talk about next. How to start healing from burnout even when you feel like you can't stop. So that's the real question. How the hell do you fix it? Because if you've ever been burned out, you know it's not just as simple as just take a break. First off, let me say this. Burnout recovery isn't instant. You can't undo months or even years of exhaustion overnight. But you can start taking small steps that will make a difference. The hardest part is allowing yourself to slow down. If you've been in survival mode for a long time, resting might actually feel wrong. You might end up feeling guilty. I know I did. And you may feel restless, like you should be doing something. That's normal, but healing starts with giving yourself permission to stop running. Let's break that down, because I've got some things that can actually help. The first step is just recognize that you need rest. Before anything else, you have to accept that you're burned out. There's no more pushing through, no more pretending you're fine, and honestly, accepting this is one of the hardest parts. You have to ask yourself, if I had a friend feeling the way that I do, what would I tell them? Chances are you'd be able to recognize it for them and tell them to slow down and rest. So why is it so hard to tell yourself the same thing? Secondly, you've got to prioritize recovery and not productivity. A lot of people try to recover from burnout by being productive about it. And it is difficult to shift in mindset to not view recovery as a task, so they will. They'll make to-do lists of self-care tasks. feel guilty for not resting correctly, or try scheduling healing like it's just another job. But healing isn't a checklist. You don't have to earn rest, you just need to let yourself have it. Giving yourself permission to do that can be really hard. I know, because that's one of those things that I still fight with daily. Third thing is reducing your mental clutter. Burnout isn't just about feeling physically tired, it's mental exhaustion as well. Your brain is overloaded, so we need to clear out some space. Try unplugging for a while. Social media, news, constant notifications, it's all stimulation that keeps your brain running in overdrive. Simplify your day. If life feels overwhelming, cut out unnecessary stress. Say no to things that drain you. Make decisions easier. Just brain dump. Get all those things swirling around in your head and write them down. Say them out loud. Whatever works. I have a journal strictly for this myself, and it's separate from my daily one that I journal in. Fourth approach, you need to reset your nervous system. If you've been in fight or flight mode for too long, your body forgets how to relax. You need to retrain it to feel safe again. Being blatantly honest, I struggle with this one constantly, but that hasn't stopped me from trying. Try deep breathing exercises. Slow, deep breaths signal to your nervous system that you're not in danger. Physical grounding techniques, like walking around outside barefoot, holding onto something solid, splashing cold water in your face, anything to bring you back to the present. Move your body gently. Don't go out and run a marathon. I'm talking about like stretching, walking, or even just standing outside for a few minutes. It can help. The next thing, you have to start reconnecting with yourself. Burnout makes you feel disconnected from yourself. To heal, you need to start remembering who you are outside of the stress and exhaustion. Do something that makes you feel like you again, even if it's a small thing, even if it's something that you haven't done in years. Try to find joy in tiny moments. A song you like, a deep breath, the way the sun feels when it hits your skin. Those little things matter. Stop thinking about what you should be doing and ask, what do I actually need to do right now? If you ignore your own needs under the pretense that you need to be more productive, eventually you will get to the point where you just can't anymore. And then productivity is completely out of the question. What I see as the most important part, you gotta give yourself grace. Burnout recovery isn't a straight line. Some days you'll feel better. Other days you'll feel like you're back to square one. That's totally normal. Just keep in mind how long and how much it took to really get you to this point. It didn't happen overnight, so you can't expect too much too fast. Healing takes time, but the fact that you're even thinking about recovery means that you're already on your way. We've talked about what burnout is, why it happens, and how to start healing from it. Once you've recognized that you've experienced it yourself, you never want to dig yourself back into that hole again. And the truth is, if you don't change anything, burnout will keep happening. It's not just a one-time event, it's a cycle. So how do we break it? How do we keep burnout from being our default mode? That's what I want to wrap up with. Real ways to keep burnout from taking over. I'm just going to harp on this one again. You gotta stop treating rest like it's a reward. One of the biggest mistakes we make is treating rest like it's something that we have to earn. We tell ourselves things like, I'll take a break once I finish this project. I'll slow down when things aren't so crazy. Or I just need to push through a little longer. But here's the thing. There will always be another project, another deadline, another reason to keep going. If you don't make rest a regular part of your life, burnout will always find its way back in. So something that you should do instead, schedule rest the same way that you schedule work. You have to make it a non-negotiable thing. Here's a really hard one. You have to learn to say no without guilt. A lot of burnout comes from doing too much for too many people. We overextend ourselves, take on responsibilities that aren't ours, and we say yes when we really should be saying no. I am a huge culprit of that one myself. But every time that you say yes to something that drains you, you're saying no to your own well-being. What we should really do instead is practice setting boundaries and stick with them. Remind yourself that you don't have to justify saying no. Because if it's not a hell yes, it needs to be a no. We need to pay attention to the early warning signs. Burnout doesn't happen overnight. It builds over time. The problem is most of us ignore the early warning signs until it's too late. So some of those big red flags to watch for is feeling exhausted even after sleeping, dreading things you used to enjoy, feeling emotionally numb or disconnected, brain fog, trouble focusing or forgetting simple things, or resentment towards work, responsibilities, or even the people that you love. The moment that you notice these signs, you need to adjust. Don't wait until you're completely drained to start pulling back, setting limits, and prioritizing recovery before you hit that wall. We have to balance the inputs with the outputs. Burnout happens when you're constantly giving, working, or producing without taking in anything that refuels you. Your energy is like a battery. If you keep draining it without recharging it, eventually you're going to hit 0%. So we have to make sure that we have things that are fulfilling for us, like hobbies, music, time outside, creative outlets, or even just doing nothing. If your life is all outputs like work, responsibilities, and stress, you need to start balancing it with inputs, things that bring you joy, peace, or inspiration. We all need a support system. Burnout is worse when you feel like you're having to go through it all alone. One of the best ways to prevent it is to have people that you can lean on, like friends, family, a therapist, or a support group. It's something that we need to talk about. We can't bottle it up until we explode. That can be really hard to do at first, but it becomes easier the more that you do it. You have to surround yourself with people who are going to respect your boundaries. And after you learn what those are for yourself, you may end up finding out that some of those people in your life are not that great for you. And that's a hard pill to swallow, but it's a necessary one. You have to ask for help when you need it, without feeling guilty. I have yet to master that one myself, but just think of all the people that have came to you for help. Believe it or not, you deserve the same in return. And you're going to have to give yourself permission to change. Sometimes being burnt out is just a sign that something in our life isn't working anymore. Maybe it's your job, your relationship, or your routine. Something that used to be fine, but it's now draining. If something constantly makes you feel exhausted, you have to ask yourself, do I really actually want this? You have to be honest about what needs to change, and don't be afraid to change it. Growth means outgrowing things sometimes, and that's okay. Something that is developed in the wrong direction through generational trauma is that burnout is not a badge of honor. We live in a culture that glorifies exhaustion. People brag about how little of sleep they get, how much they work, how busy they are, like burnout is some kind of achievement. But here's the truth, burnout is not a sign of success, it's a sign that something needs to change. And if you're feeling burned out right now, I hope this episode has helped you see that you're not alone. You're not weak for feeling this way, and you definitely don't need to stay stuck in burnout forever. Give yourself permission to slow down. You deserve to rest, not because you've earned it, but because you are human. I really hope this message resonated with you today. Maybe there's someone in your life that you know that needs to hear it as well. Go ahead and send this to them. Sometimes, even if you've tried to deliver a message, just hearing it from another voice and another perspective can help it hit home for them. This topic hits close to home for me because I spent years basically walking around as an emotionless drone because I failed to recognize the issues for myself. And I'm still working on repairing the damage from that. Speaking of that, next episode I'm going to be covering survival mode versus living. Sometimes we can get trapped in a dark place without realizing it and missing the opportunities to experience life. Which is kind of the whole purpose of living, is it not? We'll break down how to recognize getting trapped in survival mode so that we don't end up missing out on life. I appreciate you letting me be part of your day today and look forward to continuing to hit these hard topics together. I'd love to hear from you, and as always, feel free to reach out at brokenmedia1984@gmail.com, on TikTok under the name Another Broken Dad, or the account name which is at brokenmedia1984. Or you can do it just by commenting on this episode. We are stronger together, and I hope you continue to be a part of the Broken Media family. Find a reason to smile today, and as always, have a good one.